Okay, let's pick up again. The two warriors bounded away in the direction of the ThunderClan camp. A few moments later, Firestar led the rest of his cats after them, putting Dustpelt at the rear to keep watch. As they headed swiftly through the forest, Firestar thought that he could feel Scourge's cold, malignant eyes following their paw steps. Once before, when the dog packs were loose, Firestar had felt like prey in the forest, and now his enemy had a face all the more terrible for being one of his own kind. But if the Blood Clan leader was watching them, he gave no sign of it, and the ThunderClan warriors reached the ravine unchallenged. Firestar noticed that Bramblepaw had begun to lag behind, with his tail trailing on the ground. "What's wrong?" he asked gently. Bramblepaw raised his eyes to his mentor's, and Firestar was shocked by the depths of sick horror in his gaze. "I thought I hated my father," he mewed quietly. "I didn't want to join his clan, but I didn't want him to die like that." "I know." Firestar pressed his muzzle against the young cat's side. "But it's over now, and you're free of him." Bramblepaw turned his head away. "I don't think I'll ever be free of him," he murmured. "Even now that he's dead, no cat will forget that I'm his son. And what about Tawny Paw?" His voice choked. "How could she choose to follow him?" "I don't know." Firestar understood how much pain Tawny Paw's betrayal must have caused her brother. "But if we come through this, I promise that we'll find a way of talking to her." "Does that mean you will let her come back to ThunderClan?" "I can't be sure of anything," Firestar admitted. "We don't even know if she wants to come back. But I'll give her a fair hearing and do the best I can for her." "Thank you, Firestar." Bramblepaw's voice was tired and defeated. "I suppose that's more than she deserves." He dipped his head to his mentor and padded on toward the gorse tunnel. Firestar gazed down from the high rock. As the cats of ThunderClan emerged from their dens and gathered below him, he could see their horror-struck expressions that the news of BloodClan's threat and Tigerstar's terrible death had already spread throughout the camp. He knew that it was his duty to give them hope and courage, but he did not know if he could, when he had so little for himself. The sun was going down, and the rock cast a long shadow across the sandy floor of the clearing. Scarlet rays of the dying sun made it too easy for Firestar to imagine that the camp was already washed in blood. He wondered if it wasn't a sign from StarClan that all of his friends, all his warriors, would be destroyed. After all, the warrior ancestors had shown no sign of anger when Scourge had ripped Tigerstar's 9 lives out of him and let all of his life blood run into the sacred ground at Four Trees. No, Firestar told himself. To think like that was to despair and do nothing. He had to go on believing that BloodClan could be defeated. Clearing his throat, he began to speak. "Cats of ThunderClan, you have heard of the threat that faces us. BloodClan has come from Two Lake Place and laid claim to the forest. They want us to run away and let them take over without a fight. But 3 days from now, we will stand together with WindClan and make BloodClan fight for every mouse length of the forest." In the clearing below, Cloudtail leapt to his paws and yowled agreement. Several cats echoed him, but Firestar could see that some glanced doubtfully at one another, as if they were not sure they had a chance of surviving against BloodClan or their fearsome leader. What about RiverClan and ShadowClan?" asked Whitestorm. "Will they fight? And if they do, which side will they be on?" "That's a good question," Firestar replied, "and I don't know the answer. The TigerClan warriors ran away when Tigerstar died. Then we need to know where they went," Whitestorm meowed. "I could slip over into RiverClan territory to see," suggested Mistyfoot, getting up from where she sat at the base of the rock. "I know all the best places to hide." "No," Firestar ordered. "You're in more danger over there than any cat. We don't know if TigerClan are still prosecuting half-clan cats, and I don't want to lose you. ThunderClan needs you." For a moment, Mistyfoot looked as if she would have liked to argue, but she dipped her head and sat down again, as Whitestorm meowed. "We can find out most of what we need from border patrols." Firestar nodded. "That's your job, Whitestorm. I want extra patrols along the ShadowClan and RiverClan borders. Their main task is to find out what the other clans are doing, but they can keep their eyes open for BloodClan as well. If Scourge decides to attack before 3 days are up, I don't want us to be caught napping." Whitestorm flicked his tail in agreement. Consider it done. Firestar could see that his deputy's calm efficiency had encouraged the rest of the clan, and he went on quickly before their fears could return. Next, every cat in the clan must be prepared to fight. Even the kits? That was Sorrel Kit, springing eagerly to her paws. Can we be in the battle? Can we be apprentices? In spite of the danger they were in, Firestar suppressed a purr of amusement. No, you're too young to be apprentices, he told Sorrel Kit gently, and I can't take you into battle, but if BloodClan win, they'll come here, and you'll need to be able to defend yourselves. Sandstorm, will you be responsible for training the kits? I will, Firestar. Sandstorm's green eyes flashed with approval at Sorrel Kit and her litter mates, Soot Kit and Rain Kit, who had scrambled up to stand beside their sister. They'll be able to give BloodClan a nasty surprise by the time I'm finished with them. What about Brightheart? What about Brightheart? Cloudtail called. Her fighting moves are coming along well. I want to fight in the battle, Brightheart mewed determinedly. Can I, Firestar? Firestar hesitated. Brightheart was stronger now, and she had been training hard with Cloudtail. I'll think about it, he promised. Are you ready for an assessment? Brightheart nodded. Any time, Firestar. We'll fight with you too, Mistyfoot put in from where she sat near the base of the rock. Featherpaw and Stormpaw sitting beside her straightened up and looked determined. We're all strong enough, thanks to you. Good. As for the rest of you. Firestar's gaze swept the clearing. Warriors, apprentices, and elders, you have 3 days to prepare. Greystripe, will you supervise a training program? His friend's eyes lit up and his ears pricked. No problem, Firestar. Get a couple of the others to help you, and rotate the training sessions so Whitestorm has enough cats for his patrols and for hunting. Glancing around, he spotted the medicine cat sitting near the fern tunnel that led to her den. Cinderpelt, are you ready to look after the wounded? Privately, Firestar knew there was no need to ask. He had never known Cinderpelt not to be ready, but he knew it would reassure the other cats to hear her say so out loud. The look Cinderpelt gave him showed that she understood. Everything's prepared, she replied, but there'll be a lot to do once the fighting starts. If you could let me have an apprentice to help, that would be great. Of course, as Firestar wondered which apprentice to choose, his gaze rested on Fernpaw, and he remembered her gentleness and sensitivity to other cats' injuries. You can have Fernpaw, he announced, and saw Dustpelt flash him a relieved look. Fernpaw, is that okay with you? The gray she-cat dipped her head in assent. For a moment, Firestar wondered if he had forgotten anything, but he couldn't think of what else they could do to prepare for what lay ahead. Gazing down at his clan, their shapes beginning to melt into the twilight, he took a deep breath. Now eat well and get a good sleep tonight, he ordered. Tomorrow we'll begin, and in 3 days we'll be ready to show Scourge and his clan that our forest will never be theirs for the taking. Chapter 24. When Firestar emerged from his den the following morning, the camp was already full of activity. Mousefur was leaving at the head of a patrol, Sandstorm was rounding up Willowpelt's 3 kits, who bounced around her in wild excitement as she herded them toward the Gorse Tunnel on their way to the training hollow. Mistyfoot and the 2 RiverClan apprentices followed them. Brackenfur past them at the entrance to the camp, a piece of fresh kill in his jaws. Firestar spotted Whitestorm with Bramblepaw and Ashpaw beside the thorn wall that surrounded the camp and padded across to join them. The White Warrior came to meet him. I'm getting these 2 to inspect for the defenses and patch any gaps, he meowed. If BloodClan gets this far, he stopped, his blue eyes worried. Good idea. Firestar suppressed a shiver at the thought of BloodClan breaking into the camp. He turned sharply at the sight of movement in the Gorse Tunnel and flashed a glance of astonishment at Whitestorm as Ravenpaw appeared, followed by Barley. The black and white loner had never been to the ThunderClan camp before. Leaving his deputy to finish instructing the apprentices, Firestar padded toward them. Ravenpaw hurried forward confidently, but Barley lagged behind, glancing warily around, as if he wasn't sure of a welcome. "We have to talk to you," Ravenpaw blurted out. "Last night we met one Whisker on the border of his territory, and he told us about Scourge and BloodClan. The raven-colored fur on his shoulders bristled. "We want to help, but more important, Barley has some information for you." Firestar dipped his head in greeting. "It's good to see you both," he meowed. "And we're grateful for any help we can get. Perhaps you'd better come to my den." Barley relaxed at Firestar's friendly greeting, and the two loners followed Firestar to the hollow beneath the high rock. Early morning sunshine slanted through the entrance and into the peaceful den. Firestar could almost forget the threat from Scourge and his bloodthirsty followers, but the serious expressions of his visitors reminded him all too clearly of the shadow over the future of the forest. "What is it?" he prompted, once the two loners were settled. Ravenpaw was gazing around him with an almost awestruck look. Firestar guessed he was remembering Bluestar, and maybe wondering at how the apprentice who had trained with him had come to take the former leader's place. Barley, however, looked uneasy, crouching with his paws tucked under him as he began to speak. "I was born in Two Leg Place," he began quietly. "I know too much about Scourge and his warriors. I suppose you could say I was once a member of BloodClan." Firestar's interest quickened. "Go on." "The first thing I remember is playing with my litter mates on a patch of waste ground," Barley explained. "Our mother taught us to hunt and find food among two-leg rubbish. Later on, she showed us how to defend ourselves." "Your mother mentored you?" Firestar asked, surprised. "All of you." Barley nodded. "BloodClan doesn't have a proper system of mentors and apprentices. It's not a clan at all in the way you forest cats understand it. Most cats listen to Scourge because he's the strongest and the most vicious, and Bone is a kind of deputy insofar as he carries out Scourge's dirty work." "Bone," Firestar asked. "Is that the black and white cat? He was there at Four Trees." "That sounds like him, yes." The loner's voice was filled with disgust. He's almost as bad as Scourge. Any cats who don't do as they're told are chased off. If they're lucky, one or more likely killed." Firestar stared at him. "But what about caring for kits and elders?" Barley shrugged. "A she-cat's mate will probably hunt for her while she's nursing her kits," he mewed. "Even Scourge realizes that if there are no kits, sooner or later there's no clan. But elders or cats who are sick or injured, well, they're left to fend for themselves. It's kill or be killed, hunt or starve. There's no room for weakness." Firestar felt every hair on his pelt bristle at the thought of a clan that did not care for cats who were in need, where cats who had given good service were allowed to die if they could not care for themselves. Then why does any cat follow Scourge?" he burst out. "Some of them enjoy killing." Barley's tone was cold and his eyes were black, staring at something Firestar could not see. "And others are too scared to do anything else. You can't lead your own life in Two Leg Place if you're not a kitty pet with a two-leg nest to go to. Either you're with Scourge or against him, and cats who are against him don't last long." Ravenpaw shifted closer to his friend and pressed his muzzle comfortingly against his flank. "That's why Barley left," he meowed. "Tell Firestar about it, Barley." "There's nothing much to tell." Barley flinched, shrinking from some dark memory. "I couldn't bear what Scourge was doing, so one night I slipped away. I was terrified that Scourge and his warriors would catch me, but I reached the edge of Two Leg Place and crossed the Thunderpath. I scented cats in the forest, but at the time I thought they would be just like Scourge and his lot, so I kept away from them, and finally I came to the farm, where it seemed I could live unchallenged. The two legs leave me in peace. They have no use for the mice anyway." He fell silent while Firestar thought rapidly. Barley's words confirmed what he had already known, that Scourge was violent and dangerous enemy. "Scourge must have weaknesses," he meowed to Barley. "There must be some way of defeating him." Barley met his eyes and leaned toward Firestar. "His one great strength is his one great weakness," he replied. "Scourge and his warriors don't believe in StarClan." Firestar wondered what he meant. Cloudtail had no belief in StarClan, but he was still a loyal ThunderClan cat. What was Barley trying to tell him? "BloodClan has no medicine cat," Barley went on. "I've already told you, they don't care for the sick. If they don't believe in StarClan, there aren't any signs that could be interpreted. Then they don't follow the warrior code. That had been a stupid question, Firestar realized as soon as the words were out. Everything Barley had told him, everything he had seen for himself of the way Scourge and his cats behaved, confirmed that. And you're telling me that's a weakness. All it means is that they do as they like with no code of honor to stop them. That's true, Barley admitted. But think, Firestar. Without the warrior code, you might be just as bloodthirsty as Scourge. You might even be better at fighting him. But without the belief in StarClan, what are you then? He met Firestar's eyes steadily. Firestar's head reeled. After what Barley had told him, he dreaded BloodClan even more, and yet somewhere in his mind there was a faint spark of hope, as if StarClan were trying to tell him something that he couldn't understand, or not yet. Thank you, Barley, he meowed. I'll think about what you've told me, and I won't forget that you tried to help us. That's not all we'll do, Ravenpaw rose to his paws. One Whisker told us that you're meeting Scourge in battle in 3 days. 2 days now. When you do, we'll both be there. We'll both be there with you. Firestar stared at him, mouth open. But you're loners, he began. It's not your quarrel. Come on, Firestar, Barley mewed. If Scourge and his gang take over the forest, how long do you think we would last? It wouldn't take them a quarter moon to find our barn and all the plump mice. We'd have the choice of getting out or being killed. We'd rather fight for our friends, Ravenpaw added quietly. Thank you, Firestar felt humbled by the depth of loyalty the two loners were showing to him. All the clans will honor you. Barley snorted. I don't know about that. All I want is a quiet life, but I won't get it until BloodClan is dealt with. None of us will. None of us will. Firestar's ears twitched in agreement. There's no hope for any of us while Scourge is in the forest. Firestar had said goodbye to Ravenpaw and Barley and was heading for the Sandy Hollow to check up on the training program when he spotted Longtail and Frostfur leaping down the ravine. Firestar paused and waited for them. Any news? He asked. Longtail nodded. You've been along ShadowClan border as far as Four Trees, you reported. There's a reek of BloodClan coming from ShadowClan territory. You get the foul stink in your nose even from across the Thunderpath. They must be hiding out over there, Frostfur added. That makes sense, Firestar mewed thoughtfully. But where has ShadowClan gone? I was coming to that. Longtail's eyes were wide with excitement. We picked up their scent at Four Trees, the scent of many cats traveling in the same direction. I believe they crossed into RiverClan territory. So they went to their allies in RiverClan, Firestar mused. He wondered what sort of welcome they would get. Would Leopardstar try to regain her old authority now that Tigerstar was dead? Firestar shrugged. He had problems enough of his own without worrying about Leopardstar's. Thanks, Longtail, he meowed. We needed to know that. Go and get something to eat. With a nod of acknowledgement, Longtail led the way into the gorse tunnel, with Frostfur close behind him. Firestar stood watching them go, and with the tip of Frostfur's tail had vanished, he went on to watch his cat's training. Greystripe was standing on a jutting slab of rock overlooking the apprentices. He pricked his ears in greeting as Firestar came to join him. How's it going? Couldn't be better, Greystripe replied. If Scourge could see us, he'd bolt straight back to Two Leg Place with his tail between his legs. The Grey Warrior was wearing a look of stubborn determination that Firestar remembered from the days of his forbidden relationship with Silverstream. Briefly, he wished that he could tell Greystripe about seeing Silverstream in his dream at the Moonstone, but it wouldn't help his friend's grief. The beautiful she-cat was still dead, and Firestar hoped it would be a long time before Greystripe joined her in the ranks of StarClan. At any rate, Greystripe went on, we're the best fighting force this forest has ever seen. His eyes widened as his gaze fell on the mock fight between Bramblepaw and Thornclaw. Hang on a minute, I need to give Bramblepaw a tip about his clawing action. He leapt down from a rock and bounded across the hollow, leaving Firestar to look around. Closest to him, Speckletail and Smallear were stalking around each other, waiting for the chance to spring. Sandstorm was instructing Willowpelt's 3 kits on the other side of the hollow. Firestar patted down to watch, and he heard her meowing. Okay, I'm a BloodClan warrior, and I've just broken into your camp. What are you going to? The last words became a screech as Sorrelkit pounced and bit down hard on her tail. Sandstorm spun around, one forepaw raised with claws sheathed, but before she could bat Sorrelkit away, Sootkit and Rainkit jumped on her from behind. The ginger she-cat vanished under a writhing mass of kits. By the time Firestar reached her, she was struggling free of them, her green eyes alight with laughter. Well done, she meowed. If I really was from BloodClan, I'd be running scared by now. Turning to Firestar, she added, Hi there. Did you see these three? In a few moons, they'll make great warriors. I'm sure they will, Firestar mewed. You're doing very well, he praised them, and no cat could teach you better than Sandstorm. I want Sandstorm to be my mentor when I'm an apprentice, Sorrelkit meowed. Can she, Firestar? No, I want her, Sootkit protested. Rainkit added, No, I do. Shaking her head, Sandstorm let out a growl of laughter. Firestar will decide who your mentor will be, she told the kits. Now let him see you practice those defensive moves. Firestar watched while the kits scuffled together, pretending to attack and defend themselves. Even though they were excited, they managed to remember what Sandstorm had taught them, dodging expertly or dashing in to give their mock attacker a quick nip. They're good, Sandstorm commented quietly, especially that little Sorrelkit. With a sidelong glance at Firestar, she added, If you asked me to mentor her, I wouldn't say no. Just between you and me, she's yours when the time comes, Firestar promised, blinking gently at her. Even though he and Sandstorm, the kits, and all the clan were standing on the brink of disaster, Firestar could still not suppress a burst of pride and hope. Pressing his muzzle against Sandstorm's side, he murmured, We'll win the battle. I have to believe that. Sandstorm did not reply in words, but the look she gave him said everything. Leaving her to go on with her lesson, Firestar crossed the hollow to the far side, where Cloudtail and Brightheart were training with Ashpaw and Dustpelt. Brightheart had just bowled Dustpelt over. He got up, spitting out sand, and meowed, I never saw that mood coming. Show me again. Brightheart dropped into a crouch, but relaxed a moment later when she saw Firestar. Cloudtail padded over to him, his tail held high. Did you see that? He asked proudly. Brightheart fights really well now. Carry on, Firestar prompted her. This looks interesting. Brightheart flashed him a nervous look from her one good eye, and then turned back to concentrate. Dustbelt was trying to creep up on her blind side, but she weaved back and forth, keeping him in view the whole time. When he sprang, she slipped under his outstretched paws and hit his back legs to roll him onto the ground again. I see why you're called Dustpelt, Cloudtail joked as the brown warrior got up again, shaking his fur. Well done, Brightheart, Firestar called. He twitched his ears to draw Cloudtail a little way away. I'd hope you'd be here, he meowed quietly. I'm going to see Princess, and I thought you might want to come too. Cloudtail's ears pricked. Are we going to warn her? Yes, with BloodClan on the prowl, she should know of the danger. I know she doesn't often go into the forest, but even so. I'll be right with you, Cloudtail meowed, patting back for a word with Brightheart. A moment later, the two cats were heading for Tall Pines, Firestar calling goodbye to Graystripe as they left the hollow. The pale sunlight of Leaf Bear fell on the ash that still remained from the fire. The few plants that had returned were dry and shriveled, and there was neither sound nor scent of prey. This Leaf Bear would have been hard enough, Firestar reflected, without the extra trouble from BloodClan. When they reached the two-legged nest where Princess lived, Firestar was relieved to see the pretty tabby she-cat sitting on the garden fence. She let out a trill of welcome as he raced to cross the open ground at the edge of the forest and leapt up to the fence beside her. Cloudtail followed him in a couple of heartbeats. Fireheart, Princess exclaimed, pressing her muzzle against his flank. And Cloudtail, it's so good to see you both. Are you well? Yes, we're fine, Firestar replied. He's clan leader now, Cloudtail put in. You have to call him Firestar. Clan leader? That's wonderful. Princess let out a deep, delighted purr. Firestar knew she was proud of him, even though she had no real understanding of what that meant. Either the grief of Bluestar's death or the heavy weight of responsibility that went with leadership. I'm so pleased for you, Princess went on. But you're both very thin, she added doubtfully, drawing back to inspect her brother and her son. Are you eating properly? It was hard to answer that question. Firestar and all the clan cats were used to feeling hungry in this hard Leaf Bear, but Princess had no way of knowing how scarce prey was, not when her two legs fed her the same kitty pet food every day. We're doing well enough, Cloudtail repeated impatiently before Firestar could reply. But we came to tell you to stay out of the forest. There are evil cats around. Firestar flashed an irritated look at his hot-headed kin. He would have tried to find a gentler way of warning Princess. Cats from Two-Leg Place have come into the forest, he explained, pressing himself comfortingly against Princess's side. They're fierce creatures, but they should leave you alone. I've seen them slinking through the trees, Princess admitted, her voice hushed. And I've heard stories about them. Apparently they even kill dogs and other cats. The tales were true, Firestar reflected, remembering the teeth studding Scourge's collar. and before very long there would be more deaths to Scourge's name. All good storytellers exaggerate, he told the princess, hoping he sounded convincing. You don't need to worry, but it would be best if you stayed in your own garden. The princess held his gaze steadily, and Firestar realized that for once she wasn't deceived by his light-hearted tone. I'll do that, she promised, and I'll warn the other house cats. Good, Cloudtail meowed, and don't worry about a thing. We'll get rid of BloodClan. BloodClan? Princess echoed, a shiver passed through her. Firestar, you're in danger, aren't you? Firestar nodded, suddenly unwilling to treat her like a soft kitty pet who couldn't cope with the truth. Yes, he replied. BloodClan have given us 3 days to get out of the forest. We don't intend to leave, so that means we have to fight them. Princess went on giving him that long, thoughtful look. The tip of her tail swept around and touched a scar on his flank, an old wound from a battle so long ago that he'd forgotten which one it was. Firestar had a sudden vision of how he must appear to her, gaunt and ragged in spite of his lean muscle, his battle-marked pelt a constant reminder of the harshness of his forest life. I know you'll do your best, she mewed quietly. The clan couldn't have a better leader. I hope you're right, Firestar meowed. This is the worst threat to the clan that we've ever had to face. And you'll come through it. I know you will. Princess rasped her tongue over his ear and pressed close against him. Firestar smelled her fear scent, but she stayed calm, and her gentle features were unusually serious. Come back safely, Firestar, she whispered. Please. And that is where we will stop for tonight, seeing as the stream keeps becoming unstable. I hope you all enjoyed listening, and I hope you have a good evening and a good night. Till next time, my friends. Take care.